My wife sent me to the couch over the neighbor. So I turned the spare room into my own apartment, added a keypad lock, saved the hallway camera footage, called a lawyer after she broke in, filed for legal separation, and kept the house when she finally took the buyout. AF Tales is back with another story. My wife declared, "You're on the couch until you apologize for something you didn't do." I said, "Fine by me." I didn't apologize. 3 weeks later, I turned the spare room into my personal haven. When she finally stepped inside, see if you think the main character waited too long to act. I'm 38, and this whole mess started because I helped a neighbor carry a box. That is not me simplifying it. That is the full trigger. Our new neighbor, Sophie, is 23 and had just moved in with her boyfriend. I was taking out the garbage when I saw her struggling with a big box near the driveway. I carried it to her door. We talked for maybe 2 minutes about the area, parking, and where the nearest grocery store was. That was it. Claire, my wife, saw the whole thing from the window. When I came back inside, she was waiting for me with that look people get when they have already decided what happened and are just looking for a chance to punish you for it. She said I was all over Sophie, said I was fawning, said I thought I was being slick. I honestly thought she was joking at first. Then she said, "Don't manipulate me, Ryan. I know what I saw. You're on the couch until you admit it and apologize." I just stood there for a second. Then I said, "All right." She blinked like I had missed my line in the script. She clearly expected me to argue, beg, explain more, maybe start chasing her approval before bedtime. Instead, I said, "I'll sleep on the couch until you apologize." That was the part she didn't catch at first. She thought she had won. I had simply decided not to play her game. When someone demands an apology before they even hear you, the problem is not what happened. The problem is control. Night 1 on the couch was terrible. Our sofa is fine for movie night. It is awful for sleep. I woke up with my back wrecked and my neck feeling like it had been folded in half. The next morning, Claire came downstairs, saw me making coffee, and asked if I was ready to apologize. I said no. She huffed and left for work. By the third night, I was done with the couch. We had a spare room. It was mostly storage, some boxes, and a few pieces of Claire's overflow wardrobe. There was an old pull-out bed in there, so I took my pillow and moved in. Not as a statement at first, just for sleep. Claire noticed right away and gave me that smug little look. "Couch too rough for you?" "Yep." "Then apologize." "No." She acted like she was still in control. What she did not understand was this. Once you stop trying to win the argument and start adapting to the reality, the whole power balance shifts. I'm a project manager. I make solid money. Claire also earns well in advertising, and we keep separate personal spending after household bills are handled. I had about $3,000 saved for a woodworking setup I had been planning for months. Instead, I put that money into the spare room. First came the mattress. A real queen-size memory foam mattress, $800, delivered fast. Then I found a leather armchair online for $200, a sturdy oak desk for $150, and a 55-inch TV someone was selling for $300. I borrowed my friend Mike's van and moved everything in while Claire was out at her mother's. Then I added shelves, a rug, a microwave, and blackout curtains. By the second week, I leaned into it harder. Gaming console, soundbar, better lighting, vintage movie posters I had always wanted, and then my favorite touch, a keypad lock for the door. By the end of week 3, I had spent about $2,800 turning that spare room into a place I actually wanted to be. It had everything our bedroom didn't. Quiet, comfort. My style, my rules, no tension, no performance, no waiting for someone to decide whether I was allowed back into my own bed. Claire had not stepped foot inside it. She would knock sometimes, call me childish, tell me I was making this bigger than it had to be, but she never walked in. I think part of her believed I was still bluffing. That eventually I would get tired, admit fault, and come crawling back to the main bedroom so she could feel like she had proved something. Then one night she tried the door. I was in there gaming with Mike online when I heard the handle move. The lock held. Then I heard her voice. "Ryan, why is this door locked?" I paused the game and said, "Privacy." "Open it." "No thanks." That was the first time I heard real panic in her voice. She pounded on the door and demanded I open it. I walked over but kept it shut. "Claire, you kicked me out of our bedroom. This is my space now. Apologize for falsely accusing me whenever you're ready." She said she was not apologizing because she saw what she saw. Then came one of her classic moves. She called her mother on speakerphone, loud enough for me to hear. She started with the most dramatic version possible, told her mom I had locked myself in the spare room and would not come out. Her mother, Linda, asked why I was in there to begin with. Claire hesitated, then said she had put me there because I was flirting with the neighbor. Linda asked what I had actually done. Claire said I helped her carry a box. Even Linda went quiet for a second. Then she said, "That's it." Claire tried to insist it was about how I looked at Sophie. Linda told her maybe she should apologize. That did not go over well. Claire hung up and threatened to call a locksmith. I told her to go ahead. I co-own the house. I can put a lock on an interior door I had already checked. Funny how quickly threats fade when facts show up. Then came the texts. "This is insane. You're acting like a kid. That room is for guests." I answered, "Not anymore." She said I could not just claim a room. I reminded her she had already claimed the entire bedroom and made access conditional on a false apology. That is the part people like her never want to hear. They call your response childish because it reflects their own behavior back at them. The next morning, while I was at work, she finally went inside. I had a camera in the room, legally placed, because by then I did not trust her boundaries at all. I watched her open the door and just stand there, 5 full minutes. She looked around at the TV, the chair, the fridge, the desk, the mattress. She sat in the armchair, touched the sound bar, stared at the console like she had just discovered I had built a whole new life without asking her permission. When I got home, she was sitting at the kitchen table looking deflated. She said, "You built a whole apartment in there." I told her it was just a room with a fridge, microwave, and console. Then she asked how much it cost. I said my personal savings, not joint funds. Then she asked if I was really not going to apologize. I said not for something I didn't do. That was the moment she finally understood this was not a bluff. She walked away and shut herself in the bedroom. I sat in my room that night with takeout, a cold soda from my mini fridge, and a game ready to go. And honestly, I felt great. Petty, sure. But peace often looks petty to the person who expected you to stay uncomfortable. Then Claire escalated. First, she stopped doing my laundry. No problem. I found a compact washer-dryer unit online for $400 and put it in my room. Then she stopped cooking my share of dinner. Fine. I already had the microwave and fridge. I started meal prepping and added an air fryer. Then she called what she literally called a house meeting. She brought in her friend Tara as a mediator, which was already ridiculous. The two of them sat me down in the living room like I was a difficult teenager. Tara asked if I thought this had gone too far. I said I was simply honoring Claire's choice to exile me from the bedroom. Tara said I turned the spare room into a bachelor pad. I asked her what guests exactly we had ever used that room for. Her mother stayed in hotels because she hated our spare bathroom. Her cousin had not visited in years. The room had been a storage dump, nothing more. Claire said that was not the point. I told her it was exactly the point. She made a choice. I adjusted. Then Claire played what she thought was her trump card. She said she was claiming the master bathroom too and I could use the hall bath. I said okay. That rattled both of them. What Claire had not considered was that the hall bathroom was right next to my room. The master bath was only convenient if I was still sleeping in the bedroom, which I was not, so she was really just assigning herself the more annoying option. Within 2 days, I upgraded the hall bathroom too. New shower head, better towels, a bidet seat, plants, small touches that made it nicer than the master. I later overheard her telling her sister that I did not even seem bothered anymore. She sounded almost offended by how easily I adapted. That happens a lot with controlling people. They do not always want comfort. They want your discomfort. Then Claire's job shifted to hybrid, 3 days in the office, 2 from home. Suddenly, she needed a home office. Guess which room she wanted. She knocked on my door one morning and said we needed to talk about the spare room. I corrected her. My room. She said it needed to become an office now that she was working from home twice a week. I told her to set up a desk in the bedroom. It was a large room. She said there was no space. I told her to rearrange. Then she made an offer. She would let me back into the bedroom if I gave up the spare room. I asked if that meant I would not need to apologize. She said obviously I still would, so I said no. That conversation ended with a slammed door and a lot of drilling sounds 20 minutes later. She set up her desk in the living room corner, which made the shared space awkward for both of us. I bought noise-canceling headphones and kept it moving. Then came one of the bigger red flags. I got home one evening and noticed scratch marks around the keypad on my door. I confronted her and asked if she had tried to break into my room. She said she needed to check for house damage. I asked if that was her excuse for tampering with my lock. She paled a little when I used the phrase property damage. That same night, I installed a hallway camera facing my door. Legal because it was a common area. Then Mike came over to watch football. Claire lost it. She said I could not have strangers in my room. Mike was not a stranger. He had been to our house dozens of times. She had literally attended his engagement party. She called the police. Yes, really. She told them I was refusing to leave a room in her house. The officer who showed up looked exhausted before the conversation even started. I explained I lived there, paid half the mortgage, and was sitting in a room in a house I owned. Claire ranted about spare rooms, punishments, apologies, and how I was being unreasonable. The officer asked one question that settled the entire thing. "Does he live here?" Claire said yes. Then he asked if I was threatening her or breaking any laws. No and no. He told us both we probably needed counseling. That was the first outside voice to say out loud what had become obvious. This was no longer about a box. It was about control, pride, and her refusal to admit she was wrong. After the officer left, Claire sent me a payment request for half the money I spent on my room because she said it was now marital property. I declined it and sent her one for half the bedroom furniture I had been banned from using. She declined that and sent one for emotional distress. So I sent one for $1, labeled half the value of the box I helped Sophie carry. Silence for a while after that. Then Claire changed the Wi-Fi password. I had my own internet line installed to my room for $90 a month. The technician looked confused, but I was not about to explain my marriage to a guy holding a router. Then she started hosting loud gatherings right outside my door. Wine nights, craft nights, book clubs. Anything to turn the hallway into a wall of noise. I turned up my soundbar, added thicker curtains, and ignored most of it. Then she crossed the line. One Tuesday I came home and found my door wide open. The lock was gone. My room had been rearranged, the console unplugged, the fridge turned off, food spoiled, my bed stripped. A note left behind claiming there had been a maintenance inspection. "We own the house. There is no management." I called her immediately and asked what the hell she thought she was doing. She claimed the room needed to be inspected for damage. I told her she had broken into my room, damaged my property, and tampered with things I paid for. She said, "Prove it." That was when I stopped treating it like a household argument and started treating it like legal exposure. I had documented everything. Her texts admitting she kicked me out, the photos of the damaged keypad, the hallway footage, the police report, the messages, the room camera showing her entering while I was out. I did not yell. I just said, "Okay." Then I called a lawyer, not for divorce right away, for legal separation and formal household boundaries. 3 days later, she got served papers requesting exclusive use of my room, damages for the destroyed lock, and a documented split of household space during separation. She cried when she saw them. Asked if I had really gotten a lawyer over a lock. No, over everything. Over being kicked out. Over being falsely accused. Over her refusal to apologize. Over her trying to force compliance through discomfort and then getting angry when I adapted. That is the part people often miss. The final event is rarely the whole story. It is just the moment the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Then she tried another route: tears, stress, work trouble, family pressure. She said she wanted me to fight for us. She said if I had just apologized, it would have shown I cared. I told her I cared enough not to let her gaslight me. That landed about as well as you would expect. Her lawyer, according to mine, was not exactly thrilled with her position. Kicking your spouse out of a bedroom, destroying their property, and then acting like they are the unstable one is not a great look on paper. Then, Claire tried something almost funny if it had not been so desperate. She started trying to win me back while still refusing to admit fault. Suddenly she wore outfits she knew I liked, cooked elaborate dinners, brought home my favorite pastries, tried to act soft and inviting whenever I crossed the kitchen. I kept living my life, meal prepping, gaming with Mike, taking coding classes online, sleeping well for the first time in weeks. Then she went fully nuclear. She invited Sophie and her boyfriend, Matt, over for dinner without telling me. I came home and found them at my table while Claire played perfect hostess, pouring wine and smiling too hard. Sophie looked uncomfortable the second I walked in. Matt looked confused. Claire asked me to join them in that fake sweet tone people use when they are trying to prove something to an audience. I said no thanks and grabbed a protein shake. She told me not to be rude. I told her to enjoy dinner. Sophie stood up almost immediately and said they should probably go. Matt followed her lead. They both left looking like they wanted to disappear into the pavement. After the door closed, Claire exploded and told me I embarrassed her. I told her she embarrassed herself by inviting the exact neighbor she had accused me of flirting with just to make some point about being gracious. She said she was trying to save our marriage. I told her there was nothing to save if she still could not admit she was wrong. That was the beginning of the end. A few days later, she moved out to her sister's place. Not permanently at first, at least not according to her. She left a note saying since I wanted to live alone, I could have it. That was never what I wanted. I wanted my wife to say one simple sentence: I was wrong. You were helping a neighbor. I overreacted. Instead, she blew up the marriage rather than admit one false accusation. From there, everything moved faster. I got the house appraised, talked buyout options with my lawyer, started therapy, kept improving the room. The house was quieter but also clearer. And for the first time, I stopped asking how to fix it and started asking whether it should be fixed at all. Then Claire came back with her brother Ethan and a moving truck. No warning. She announced she was taking her things and half the bedroom furniture. Fine. I did not argue. She tried to claim the living room TV too, but that one was mine from before the marriage. She tried to take kitchen appliances in ways that made no sense. Her brother kept chiming in about how I humiliated her and made her feel unwanted in her own home. I kept repeating the same calm facts. She kicked me out of the bedroom for helping someone carry a box. She escalated every step after that. She broke into my room. She called the police. She refused every chance to apologize. Eventually, she found out I had documented even the attic storage split. I had literally taped a measured line down the middle so each of us had half. She called that pathetic. I told her adults do not get kicked out of bedrooms for 2-minute conversations with neighbors, but here we were. Then I said the thing she still had not believed. We're divorcing. That finally broke through. She asked if I was really ending a marriage over this. I told her it was not over a box. It was over respect, trust, partnership. The box was just the event she used to expose what was already wrong. Then she said something that explained the entire marriage in one sentence. You were supposed to apologize, sleep on the couch a few nights, feel guilty, come back and value me more. There it was, not repair, not understanding, not partnership, conditioning. She wanted me punished into obedience. I told her that was not fighting for a marriage, that was manipulation. Ethan helped her leave after that. The truck went out half full. Claire cried. He muttered about lawyers. I stood in the kitchen of my own house and felt tired more than anything else. Divorce papers were filed 2 weeks later. She pushed for counseling. The mediator heard the story and, from what my lawyer said, saw pretty quickly that this was not a misunderstanding. It was a long pattern of control that finally hit a wall. Her lawyer advised her to take my buyout offer. She did. I kept the house. Mike helped me move the bedroom furniture back into the master later on. Walking into that room again felt strange, like entering a place that used to belong to somebody else. I kept my gaming setup in the spare room. The master became just for sleeping. Honestly, best of both worlds. Claire still posts vague things online about toxic partners and red flags. According to mutuals, she tells people I ruined the marriage over nothing, but it was never nothing. It was every time she dismissed my perspective. Every time she demanded an apology for her own assumptions. Every time she chose control over a conversation. The box was just the final proof of what she believed she could get away with. I do not regret refusing to apologize. If I had done it once, I would have taught her that truth mattered less than her mood. And that kind of lesson never stays small. Sometimes the smallest standoffs reveal the biggest truths. These days, the house is quiet, calm, a little lonely sometimes, sure, but honest. I have dated a little, nothing serious yet. I am upfront about the baggage. Some women laugh when they hear the story. One called the spare room transformation iconic. Another called me stubborn. Fair enough. But stubborn is sometimes just another word for finally having a line. And the strange little epilogue to all of this is that Sophie and Matt invited me out for drinks not long ago. They said that dinner at our house was one of the most awkward nights of their lives. They felt so bad they almost considered moving. I told them the full story. Matt bought the next round and called me a good neighbor. That made me laugh, because that was all I had been from the start, a good neighbor. And somehow that was enough to reveal a bad marriage. Lesson 1: if your partner demands an apology before hearing the facts, the issue is not misunderstanding. It is power. Lesson 2: jealousy may be normal. Punishment without proof is not. Lesson 3: a spouse who needs you uncomfortable to feel secure is not asking for love. They are asking for control. Lesson 4: adapting calmly can expose a manipulative setup faster than arguing ever will. Lesson 5: documentation matters when a private power struggle starts turning into legal and property issues. Lesson 6: never apologize just to make someone else's false story feel complete. What would you have done after being sent to the couch over something you didn't do? And have you ever seen a small accusation reveal a much bigger problem underneath?